Hey, Marcus House with you here. Welcome to episode 12 in this highly modded Galileo's Planet Pack installation of Kerbal Space Program 1.3. If you caught the last episode, you'll see we went up here, we took this vessel to Tellumo and had a lot of fun dropping some probes up on this body. Today what we're going to do is set up a really cool relay network and also visit Lili, which is the little tiny moon that is orbiting inside Tellumo's rings there. Now you've just seen me lower the apoapsis there to around 14,500 kilometers. And this is a good distance to be. It gives us a roughly circular orbit when I set up this relay network. But what I'm doing right now is raising the periapsis just so that we have an orbital period of exactly 3 days. Now there's a very good reason that I'm doing this. It's because I have 4 relays and I want to space them evenly around Tellumo. Now I can do that basically by getting the orbital period right down to 3 days, dropping one of these probes off and then accelerating that probe up so that it has an orbital period of exactly 4 days. And if I keep doing that every single time I come around for an orbit, then all of my probes should be exactly 90 degrees apart, or if not exactly, very close too. So you'll see what I'm doing now. I've got the probe ejected there, I've got the solar panels out. I just need to switch on the engines just because my action groups weren't quite right again. And I'm now accelerating this up in a prograde direction, trying to keep my time to apoapsis quite low there at the same time. So I'm sort of tilting up and down to try to keep that at around 0. And you'll see I'm just trying to get the orbital period here to exactly 4 days. So we'll see how we go here. Up it comes. Just a tiny little tweak now. And there we go, 4 days and 0.077 seconds. So that is perfect. So we can leave that in orbit, switch back to our main vessel, and now time warp until we get back around to our apoapsis again. You'll see the relay behind there fell to exactly 90 degrees. So we can do the exact same thing now with each relay. So there are a number of good reasons why you might want to set up a relay network here, which has got all of its little probe components separated quite nicely there. It means that you can have a load of different probes on the body that you're orbiting. Obviously in this case it's Tellumo, and all of those probes should at least most of the time have a direct connection to at least one of those relays. And we're obviously here setting up the relay network in a polar orbit. That is because some of my probes are on the poles, and sometimes the poles might not necessarily have a great connection if the relay was set up on an equatorial orbit. So I think this is going to work quite well. So there we go, we have our relay there set to an orbital period of 4 days. Again, just dropping that final relay there off. Send that out there. Lovely, switch on the... Obviously switch on the engine and yes, we'll accelerate this one right up to a 4-day orbit. Now, if any of you are interested in how to set up a geostationary network, I do have a video that I did quite a while back which is set up in the top right here. These types of networks are really cool, essentially because the orbital period is exactly the same as the period that the body rotates in. So as far as the probe's concerned, and if it's looking back at the body isn't even moving at all, which is really quite cool. So you'll see there we now have all 4 of our probes set up in a pretty perfect looking orbit there. That is really cool there, almost exactly 90 degrees apart there. So that is working great. Now, I kind of realized at this point in the mission that I still had a load of Delta V in this stage, and I had plenty to waste. So I did bring along a survey scanner unit here that I can use when in a polar orbit, but I do need to have the apoapsis and periapsis right down. They've got to be below 1,500 kilometers, I believe, from the surface. So I'm just basically reducing the apoapsis, or shortly periapsis, so that it falls within that range. It's got to come down quite a way yet. 3,000 there, and just a little more, right down to 1,500. That should almost do it. There we go. And now I just need to lower the apoapsis so that it's around the same. This should then let me be able to do an orbital survey, and that's just going to give us a few extra science points that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And like I say, I had loads of Delta V in this liquid fuel stage to use. Still getting used to having these Nerve rocket motors in this playthrough. Actually, they make a huge difference to what you can do in one mission. Now, if you look closely at this point, you can see Lili there orbiting around in the rings there. We are going to be heading there shortly. I just need to take this survey scan, this orbital scan, and yeah, then I can start trying to flip my orbit around. So we'll just bring out the survey scanner, uploading the data there. Takes quite a bit of electric charge to do this, almost there. And there we go, there's another 60 odd science there that we can grab for doing that survey scan. This also gives us a little bit of information, of course, on the biomes and the general density of the ores on the surface. We don't have anything to do with that yet, but yeah, that's okay. So what I'm going to do now is raise the apoapsis way up, and I'm doing this because it's much more efficient to raise the apoapsis right up, orbit way out here, and then totally change my inclination so that we can come back down and do a intercept with Lili. So we're getting this right up. This is actually a principle that is really useful if you're new to the game. I hadn't picked this up for quite a long time until I first started making videos, and that is because it's a little counterintuitive. So basically it's always best to do inclination changes, which basically means changing the plane that your orbit is on. It's much more efficient to do that at the lowest velocity possible. So out here it's only a 101 meter per second burn to do that. Now it is true that we just spent 1,100 meters per second doing a burn to get all the way up here, and it's going to take us about that to reduce our velocity coming back down. But it would have actually cost us around 3,700 meters per second to try to do it around the lower orbit there of Tellumo. So we still make a saving by going out of our way like that. Just doing a final inclination change there to line us up perfectly with Lili there. What I want to do now is try to ditch our empty liquid fuel stage here on Lili itself. So hopefully I should be able to reduce our velocity enough to get an intercept at least with Lili, so that we can set ourselves up on a collision course and just ditch this liquid fuel stage to collide in with Lili. That means we don't have space junk floating around, which I always like to avoid. Yes, it is true that you can just delete the space junk from the tracking station. I get that comment so many times. It's just fun to clean up after yourself, don't you think? We can't go and remove space junk in real life by just imagining it away in the tracking station. We need to take responsibility for the garbage that we leave around our beautiful solar system here. So there we go, we have our intercept here with Lili, and I just want to slightly adjust this so that we're going to come in and impact right in the middle. You can see beautiful little Lili there. That's kind of like an odd-shaped little sort of tortoise shell or something like that. The thing is that Lili is tidally locked to the planet. So because its orbital velocity is so high, it's actually spinning very quickly in relation to a vessel that's coming in. So you can't actually sit on the edge of this thing, you just get flung out. I don't think this would actually work in real life. I think unless the makeup of Lili there was extremely tough, it would just spin itself apart. So we've just ditched that liquid fuel stage. That should impact nicely right in the center there of Lili. And actually I've just realized now I really need to get myself out of the way, because yes, otherwise I'm going to impact on it as well, and that's not going to be a nice end for this episode. So trying to get out of the way, come on. I kind of didn't really anticipate just how fast I was going to come in, and I also didn't realize how low the thruster weight ratio was on this, and this is going to be close. You can see it. Oh god. Yeah, that was definitely not planned, and I was lucky to escape there with the life of this little probe. It is a pity that all of those shots there were in the dark. Actually, that would have been quite fun to see on the light side of Tellumo there. So yes, I'm just reducing the velocity further and further so that we get into a fairly similar orbit. I'm going to have to set up another intercept a second time. That's not a problem, so I'm just realigning everything back up after our near-death experience there. And yes, we still have quite a few hundred meters per second to wipe off here. We have more than enough velocity available to us, delta V available to us in this stage, so it is absolutely no problem. What you will notice from the last few minutes is I've been losing signal quite a bit, and that is because the outer relays don't have enough power to transmit all the way back to Gale. Now, I can fix that by upgrading our tracking station, so this isn't a permanent problem. It would be nice, of course, if any of those relays can reach Gale directly. So just completing this retrograde burn to get ourselves right down here. Our orbit is almost matched, and this is going to get ourselves perfectly aligned again to meet up with Lili, and you can see it slowly approaching there. Very beautiful shot, that one, just with the star passing in behind it there. Very, very cool. So yes, Lili's orbital velocity is very high and its gravity is extremely low. I mean, this thing is even has even less pull on it than something like Gili. So we basically just need to almost try to capture this thing like you would an asteroid. There's almost nothing pulling us down there. All the same, I do need to wipe off the velocity I have here because I'm coming in a few hundred meters per second. So just dropping that right down. And yes, again, I find myself in the dark. Just let me get stable here, and I will time warp around so that we're in the light and can see things. In the meantime, of course, picking up all of that wonderful science that I now have available to me now that I'm in the sphere of influence of Lili there, picking up loads of science, transmitting all of this back, including the mystery goo unit. Why not? So there we go. We've transmitted all that back, and we're now in the light. So you can see there, Lili. Yeah, beautiful, strange-looking little tortoiseshell it is. So I'll just do a few small burns here just to get on the top of Lili. The reason we want to do that is because if we try to touch down on the outside here, we actually can't stick to the surface, and that's because it's spinning so quickly, because the orbital velocity around Tellumo here is so fast, and because Lili here is stuck in a tidal locked orbit. Yeah, the outside of this thing spins so quickly that you just can't stick to it. I think in real life this just wouldn't work because the entire little body of Lili would get ripped apart unless it was made of something extremely solid. Now what you'll notice as I'm coming into land is that I've found here a green monolith, and I did this totally by accident. I was just coming in and I just spotted it right there. I'm like, oh, okay, well, how about we go and try to touch that thing? So down I come here onto the monolith. Now remember again that the gravity here on Lili is basically non-existent, so this was almost like a docking procedure really in the end, and I was able to touch the side of it there, and yes, there's all of our milestones collected for you know, all sorts of little components there from Lili. So that's really cool. What I'd like to do though is actually grab the science from the surface of Lili. Now normally this would be a really simple thing to do, but because we're just kind of floating here on the top and we just don't stick to the surface, I just need to touch down really quite gently, probably facing down. So I'm just coming down here. You can see the green monolith there just kind of bugged out, floating slightly above the surface, which is just a little eerie. But yeah, so I'll come down here, just quickly wipe off all the massive velocity that I have here and face down, because I want to pretty much just slowly thrust toward the surface so I can stick here for a moment and yeah, just pick up all of the science. There it all is. We can grab it there with the X Science Here and Now mod and quickly transmit it back. We will actually stick to the surface, but we kind of float along on top of it. I'm probably not positioned quite right on top of Lili like I want it to be, but it was no problem. Just quickly grabbing that science scan and then yeah, transmitting it back multiple times. Now there are a bunch of biomes here on Lili, so I'm going to hop around and just pick up all the science from different biomes. I'm not going to bore you with that because it's pretty simple to do. We just need to hop around a little bit, but for the moment we need to do some work with our communication network. I'll switch back to one of the probes on the surface here of Tellumo. Now you'll notice that it's got to connect out, and basically a connection has to go out through the main vessel that's sitting on Lili. It's the only one with the very largest relay dish. So this isn't ideal. We'd really ideally like the outside network, the relay network on the outside of our large ring there, to be able to connect straight back to Gale as well. So we can actually upgrade our communication network here, the tracking station I should say. So we'll upgrade that. That's 840,000 there. And once we upgrade that, that basically makes all of our different types of antennas and relay dishes transmit much further. So not only does it allow the outer relays to reach all the way back to Gale, but it also allows the little probe antennas to reach all the way up to the relay network, which is super important. So you can see there we've got connections going straight out through the relays, straight back to Gale without having to rely on our main vessel that's sitting there on Lili. So we have lots of redundancy here now, and if we enable all of the little communication lines, you can see we get this beautiful pattern there, the quad relays spinning around there in synchronization. It's really awesome to do this sort of thing. And yes, that brings us to the end of our episode today. Please do take a second, hit that like button if you enjoyed it. All of your support is just awesome. If you have any questions for me, please do whack them down in the comments below. If this video has earned your subscription, welcome to the channel. And for my existing subscribers, you guys are just awesome. In the title, in the bottom left today, we have the playlist for this series. Please do give it a watch if you are new to the channel. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, a video that YouTube has selected from my channel just for you by some sad little robot. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.